Welcome back to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. We got a full crew today. We got the co-host, Colin Phillips. Colin, how you doing today?
Hey, good man. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. And of course, we've got Lowry. Lowry's been on here quite a few times now. Lowry, how you feeling today?
Feeling all right, and you?
Doing good, man. So this is obviously this is a big game, right? So we're talking Steelers Ravens. It's rivalry. It's super wild card in Baltimore. Weather could get a little interesting. Could you ask for anything better right now on a Saturday evening than watching a rivalry game with our Steelers and Ravens?
Nope.
I mean, if it wasn't the playoffs, I would say absolutely. But unfortunately, it's the playoffs, so no.
I mean, it's all on the line, so that's the great thing. We've obviously are two different teams right now coming into this thing. They are kind of red hot, clicking on all cylinders, and we've been the complete opposite of that. We have been just struggling to get anything going offensively. The defense hasn't looked like themselves, and honestly, for everything that people talk about with Lamar's kryptonite, the fact of the matter is they won the last time in Baltimore, and it wasn't very long ago, just a few short weeks ago. How are you guys feeling initially, just thinking about the matchup? Larry, I'll start with you. What do you feel just initially with this matchup?
I feel that it's the same old with the Steelers and Ravens. You can't ever look at the history as as the defining factor for going forward. Even when Lamar was 0-9 or 0-7 against us, you can't look at it. It's always every game is always going to be a new leaf for them. So once again, I'm fine with playing them a third time. I just would have liked to have played it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right. Colin, how about you?
I mean, I agree. It's kind of one of those games with the Ravens. I know it's personally my least favorite team on planet Earth, and it really is. Like, you can't look at the history, you can't look at previous matchups. Hell, you can't even look at the game that happened last 4 weeks ago. It's one of those teams. We know each other all too well. So it's really just who's shooting better that day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so intriguing, the matchups. The whole Lamar kryptonite that we have with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. It seems like he just has Lamar's number, and then of course Derrick Henry. We've done pretty well against him historically, and then the last game happens, and he just absolutely runs crazy on us. I think there was a couple of factors that played into that. Obviously, no Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott's turned out to be a bigger part of this defense than I thought a lot of people realized early on. Larry Ogunjobi, Colin, you and I were as hard on Larry Ogunjobi as probably anybody out there. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is he has played much better this season than he's played in years past. How do you feel about the two of them being back this game as opposed to what we saw in Baltimore last time? I'll start with you, Colin.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a testament to the lack of defensive line depth that we have. Say what you want about Larry O, whether you hate him, you love him, you think he's good, you think he's bad. We had Dean Lowry and Isaiah Loudermilk and Logan Lee getting snaps over him, and it was evident, right? Larry Ogunjobi, for whatever he's worth to each individual's person's mind, he's a starter for a reason. I think that, again, it's definitely a testament to how much D-line depth that we have, and it's an even bigger testament to how much safety depth that we have with Deshaun Elliott. Some would argue, not myself personally, but some would argue that Deshaun Elliott has been the better safety this year, in which I can respect that argument. And it was very evident not having him, having, DeMonte Casey and Miles Killebrew getting defensive snaps at the safety position on the other side of Minka.
Yep.
I agree with all that. I mean, I don't know if Larry O really is the impact that, it's like, oh, okay, this is what's going to stop Henry from up the middle, as much as it would be, Elliott's knowledge going in there, But Larry O is Larry O. He's consistent, in my opinion. So we'll see. Hopefully we get that game out of him where it's not such a bad game where it's just like, okay, this is pretty much his regular type game. That's all we can actually ask for of anybody on that D line outside of Cam, in my opinion. And Benton, I was hoping for a bigger season from him. So hopefully this is a game where he kind of stacks what he did last week.
Yeah, I think Deshaun Elliott is the piece that really hurt us with stopping Derrick Henry, at least slowing him down. You're never going to stop that guy, but slowing him down a little bit, holding him under, I think 70 yards to me is kind of the mark for him. If you can hold him under 70 yards, then, a lot's going really well for you. And I thought in the first game, you saw Deshaun Elliott kind of getting him to slow down momentum and kind of try to change directions or make him go through a different hole than where Derrick Henry wanted to go. And I think those things, when he gets rolling downhill, he's so hard to tackle. And everybody knows that. He's an absolute monster of a human being. But like when you can kind of get him to chop his feet a little bit and kind of break that momentum, that's when Derrick Henry, you can kind of control him a little bit. And that's where I felt like Deshaun Elliott came in the first game. I'm going to run through some injury stuff real quick. Not a ton to report. I mean, both teams at large are relatively healthy. Roman Wilson, I don't think anybody expected Roman Wilson to dress. He's out. Cole Holcomb's out. Logan Lee out. So 3 guys I don't think anybody thought was going to be on the roster. Mason McCormick questionable with that hand. Calvin Anderson questionable. He was another guy that they could bring back off IR. What do you guys think about the Mason McCormick thing? Obviously broke that hand. Do you think he's going to start?
Yeah,
I do too. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see like a little bit of Spencer Anderson at times. But I'm with Lowry. I think you're going to see 66 starting.
I think this will just be another game that proves James Daniels had more value than the Steelers originally thought.
Agreed. You're going to be preaching to the choir on that one. I mean, me and Colin's been on that train for that no extension for quite a while. That's still mind-boggling to me. But How effective do you think, in that case, Mason McCormick's going to be with that broken hand? I mean, that's obviously, I know he's going to wear that club or whatever, but I mean, how effective are you going to be with a broken hand, trying to leverage some of these guys? Maybe Pierce slides over against him. Like Pierce is a monster human being. Do they move Matabike over to his side a little bit, trying to get some favorable matchups? Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think it's going to be funny when he gets holding calls. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, the club can work, but he has to be on top of his game. He can't have he can't just have an average game. Unlike Larry O, he has to play above his talent level today with that busted hand. I just don't think there's anybody else you can be like, all right, cool, we can sit you for this game and put this other person in. I think we're going to give you a go, and as long as you're playing, we'll keep you in there. If all of a sudden it gets hurt and he's blowing it, then I agree with Colin. We're going to see Spencer Anderson.
Yeah. How about you, Colin? You think he's going to be able to be effective with that club on?
I mean, he's been pretty consistently below average all year. I don't really want to speculate into like, oh, it's going to make such a big difference with his clubbed hand or not. I personally, I probably would like to see Spencer Anderson just because, you know what you're getting with 66. You don't really know exactly what you get with 74. Plus, it's not one of those games where, get cute and say, oh, he's got a clubbed hand. Ha, ha, ha. Let's play him. And because I agree, I think that the Ravens are going to pull some stuff, trying to get Matabike over there, trying to move Michael Pierce maybe into the 3-tech, or I'm sorry, the 1-tech instead of the 3-tech, or whatever they decide to do. Probably some delayed blitzes to catch McCormick off, see if he could, clothesline someone with that hand or something. I don't know. So,
yeah. Ravens side, Deontay Hardy, he's got a knee, he's questionable. And the big one, Zay Flowers, he is not going to play in this game. I think that is a monster thing because, to be perfectly honest with you, I know we ran kind of by committee against him, and Joey Porter kind of locked up with Bateman, but we really don't have a guy that can run with Zay Flowers. So that, I think, is a massive loss for the Ravens. How do you think that changes their?
Do I still have you guys? Okay, because all of a sudden I lost sound. I'm like, I don't know. I think Porter did not have his best game against JPJ, or not JPJ, but Bateman last week against the Ravens. I can't remember if that was the game he went out. So I'm curious to see if Porter can respond in this game. But my issue was never, which one of those wide receivers breaks us. It's always about the tight end. So we'll see what happens with coverage on that. Like how they change up the coverage on the tight ends if Zay's out.
Yeah, no, I'm with Lowry here. I mean, it's for me, it's always been Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews always been priority A. Going into these games, watching these games. So I feel like that's been a constant for the last 7 years, 6 years that Andrews has been there. I've never really been worried about. I've never really been worried about the Zay Flowers or the Rashad Batemans of the world. Obviously, again, Joey Porter Jr. did get hurt last time we played him. Dante Jackson, I think, showed up on the injury report. I would like to see Trice again. I really would like to see Trice. But I kind of like how the Steelers did it last time. Take away Robin, and kind of bracket Batman, kind of like what we did with the Bengals as well. Hence why defense kind of looked the part. Other than that first drive, defense kind of looked the part against Cincy. So I think it'll be. Again, I'm going to say the same thing. I'd put Minka back in center field and have Deshaun Elliott cover Andrews, but I know how Mike Tomlin and Tara Lawson are going to do. They're too damn stubborn, so they're probably going to have Minka on Andrews anyway, and then have Deshaun Elliott in no man's land. So yeah.
I don't know. I'd put Elliott on Andrews and put Minka on Likely right now.
I feel like you get away with putting a linebacker on Likely. I think he just doesn't necessarily move as well. I think Peyton Wilson, Isaiah Likely would be perfectly fine with me.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's one of the things I was bringing up later. If Peyton Wilson's on the field, that means Roberts is off, which means Henry is running.
I mean, there's truth to that. I'll be honest with you. So I did an episode about Corey Trice this week, and I felt like Corey Trice played about as well as anybody that you could imagine. Playing against a guy like he's the Triple Crown winner as a wide receiver, right? So I mean, Ja'Marr Chase was absolutely phenomenal all season, and nobody really had done a very good job of slowing him down. Trice was on an island a lot in that game, and I felt like he held up pretty well. And we talked about this a little bit that he really had to battle through. And I thought that's what he did in this game, and I felt like he kept fighting, and he didn't get down on himself for getting beat at times. And the way that Dante Jackson has been playing, I don't know, man. I really feel like Corey Trice right now is a better player. So would either of you start Trice over Jackson right now?
It depends on, and since I wasn't at practice, it would all depend on if Jackson looks to be 100%, then I'd probably roll Jackson out there at the start to see what happens. But if he looked like he's 80%, then no. I mean, Jackson got hurt, I think it was like week 1 or week 2. And then after that game, it was like every game he would miss a chunk of plays because he would get hurt. So hopefully he's healthy enough to be out there. I think I would probably go with him if he's 100%. Otherwise, I would try Trice off the start. I mean, it's not like you have, like Colin pointed out, you don't have Higgins and Chase out there right now. All right, so what's the harm of putting Trice out there and seeing how the game kind of starts?
I'm with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to start Jackson. Tomlin likes veterans. He's obviously the guy who has so much more experience. Trice, has basically played in Denver, and he played last week. I mean, that's the games he's had significant snaps.
Kansas City.
Oh, yes. Yes, Kansas City. So he played a good bit in Kansas City, too. And I thought he played well in Kansas City, to be honest with you. So I just think from what we've seen of him so far, I would really like to see us go man-to-man and kind of let the linebackers and Deshaun Elliott take care of the tight ends. I know that can open up the run game, but I think it just would put so much pressure on Lamar Jackson to beat us if we run man-to-man, and they don't have receivers that I think can beat either of those two guys. But it's hard to run man if you've got Dante Jackson out there because he's just not very good at it. He's a much better zone player than he is a man player. So I just that's kind of where my mind is at when I was doing that episode. I just was curious what you guys thought about that. I think one thing that we could say is that the defense has looked better against Cincinnati. I think they looked the part against Cincinnati compared to what we had seen in the previous 3 weeks, especially. Do you think this defense right now is a team that can win a playoff game for us?
I think if they only get the Ravens in the red zone, sure. But between the 20s, everybody keeps saying that the defense looked better, but the Bengals moved up and down that field all day long. It was only when they would get into the red zone that they would stall out, and they were forced to kick field goals. The Steelers can't afford that today. They need the defense that will force punts. And I don't know right now if I saw enough from them to say they're going to force punts. They might force field goals today, but I don't know if I feel better about the defense as everybody else did after the Cincinnati game.
How you, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, definitely keep them in between the 20s. I mean, the thing is with the Ravens that we've always seen has been good for us is, holding them to field goals, right? Because, Pittsburgh will only score like 17 or so, right? So, and then also, I mean, the turnovers. Yeah, we really needed to force turnovers this time around. I mean, Cincinnati, I can't really think of I think we had 2 turnovers against Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. Am I?
I know there was one that was overturned because I think Watt had the strip fumble.
Yeah.
Holding, they called it back.
Okay. Anyway, forcing turnovers against this team always works. Every time Lamar turns the ball over, Pittsburgh finds a way to beat the Ravens. So that's really all it is. Other than that, I'm not any more confident in the defense than I was going into Week 15 against Baltimore the first time. The last 4 games have been brutal. I mean, I think we caught Cincinnati on a bad day, kind of. But it's very alarming that our offense couldn't keep up with that. So,
yeah.
And I would go back to that other Ravens game, right? We say we throw things out. Ever since then, the ball kind of has been put on the ground by the opposing teams a lot more than what the stats will show. But the ball just keeps, I mean, even in the Ravens game, the dude fumbles the ball and it bounced like right to the lineman's stomach.
It's unreal.
The punt, he fumbles the punt and it bounces right to his teammate. I mean, the plays were there. The defense now and the special teams need to get on those balls. They do. That's how it's going to, like Colin said, if we can force the turnovers, they beat them. But if those balls keep bouncing backwards to the Ravens players, it's a long day. And
I agree.
Unfortunately, I think the Steelers offense did keep pace with the Bengals offense last week because the Bengals just kept kicking field goals, so the Steelers didn't have to do much. That was the problem. The Steelers offense went from 44 points on them in the first week to 17? It's like all because we thought we can run it more. That was great. You should have thrown that playbook out in the first quarter then, not in the fourth.
That was the prime example of Tomlin living in his fears, right? He thought they could run the ball. They didn't want to give the ball back to Joe Burrow, but all you did was create a whole bunch of 3 and outs. I mean, really, we ran the ball twice in a row, threw a ball on 3rd down. It didn't go anywhere, and then we punted the ball right back to Joe Burrow. Your strategy just backfired on you, what you were trying to do. So I didn't quite understand that, and then to never adjust. I'll say this, man, the piece that scares me the most about our coaching staff is none of them adjust ever. I mean, it's not even like you come out with a halftime adjustment. We just don't do it. I mean, you see something that's consistently not working and you just keep trying it just to see what happens.
Is it no adjustments or is it the lack of change in philosophy? And that's what I've been banging on this drum for the last couple of weeks. You got to go back to when Haley left, right? This offense under 3 different offensive coordinators has not exactly looked different as far as how the game progresses. Keep it tight, win in the fourth quarter. They attack or open it up in the final 2 minutes of the first half, maybe open it up, or open it up in the end of the game. But it's like, okay, we're going to try to keep it as close as possible all day long. We can punt to Joe Burrow. We'll get the ball back. We'll hold them to a field goal. That's okay. We'll get the philosophy, I think, seems to be the issue. And this has to go back to now the 2005 Indianapolis Colts Ben Roethlisberger playoff game where they're like, you know what, let's throw that philosophy out and let's just come out and just do something completely out of the bag.
Yeah. I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me personally, but let's talk about Lamar for a minute. So Lamar has been damn near unstoppable. He's putting up some crazy numbers that's not really been put up throughout the history of the NFL. Are you buying into the Steelers kryptonite stuff? And we're sitting here talking about the Steelers defense not quite being what we expect it to be, but do you think there's anything to, Lamar maybe having it in his head that he just is not able to beat this team? Like, do you buy into any of that, or do you think Lamar's going to come out here and just try to put everything to rest?
I think it's more of like it feels like a lot of the times when we play the Ravens, it just feels like nothing goes the Ravens' way. It just seems, when we beat them, at least, it just seems like nothing goes their way. 2023, you had the 9 drops, and then you had Mason Rudolph and the rain, and they were resting all their starters and all that, blah blah blah. I think Lamar's been absolutely fantastic this year. I think I think Greg Roman's done a really nice job, or Todd Monken, thank you, has done a really nice job with that. And then again, it helps him so much having Derrick Henry, right? I mean, what does that do to a quarterback? It had Ryan Tannehill looking like a damn all-pro, right? It had Marcus Mariota looking great,
Arthur Smith looked good.
It made Arthur Smith look really good. Exactly. Like, he's having a fantastic season. I hate to say it like this, but I do think he deserves to go far in the playoffs because of that. And they have 4 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowlers. It's a fantastic team they built around him. So
I think Monken is capable of laying an egg like he did against the Steelers the first time, where he's like, okay, we're gonna prove that Lamar can beat you, and we're gonna just have Lamar do it all day long. And they put Henry on the bench to be like, okay, you can't say Henry won it because Lamar, and then he didn't win it, right? So then the last game, it was like, okay, well, we're going to bring out Henry again. And Lamar looked okay. Henry looked great, and they won. So where does that leave Lamar? I don't think Lamar – I think if this game wasn't a playoff game, Lamar still thinks I need to show the world I can beat Pittsburgh. I don't think he's thinking that way in this game. I think he's trying to be – I need to show the world I can win in the playoffs. And the question is, between him and Monken, are they smart enough to be like, okay, we're going to rely on Henry? Or are they going to do well, no, we're going to prove to the world we're better than X, Y, and Z, so we're going to put it all in Lamar's hands. If Watt is 100%, if Highsmith is 100%, and if Cam is 100%, or if he has the flu, because he looked great with the flu last week, that's Lamar's kryptonite, is keeping those guys being able to chase him down and him not being able to be free. When they can't contain him, when he's able to run around and everything, it looks like we got last week. So I like Lamar as a quarterback more than I liked him previous years. I still think if you stop Henry, you stop the Ravens.
Yeah. I think that's kind of why I asked that question, because I agree with you, Lowry. I actually think he's focused more on the playoff narrative than he's going to be focused on the Steelers narrative. I mean, he wants to prove he can win in this league, and he's up there with the Patrick Mahomes of the world and the guys that consistently win. I do want to flip to the other side of the ball here because that has been as troubling as anything that I've ever seen in this organization lately. The offense has just been terrible. In this 4-game skid, we went from averaging over 24 points a game to 14 points a game. I mean, that's a massive drop. What do we got to do to get this offense rolling?
Colin, wide receivers and offensive coordinator. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Colin.
It looks like a mess. Trent, I have no answers. Larry, I have no answers. I don't. It looks like an absolute fucking mess watching it. Like I went down last night, had a few beers, ended up watching the all 22 of the last 4 games. So we're going Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Philly. Overall it's a mess, right? It seems like different guys move at different times on the offensive line. The route concepts are actually like 5th grade level shit. There you go, Larry. I'll give it to you. And then Russell Wilson's a fucking pumpkin. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know what to say. Can they get George Pickens going? I don't know. You know why? Because he is such a piece of shit little fucking baby, and it's infuriating to watch. It is infuriating. His little nonchalant gimmick, it's not fun. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, we have to be able to find a way to get them going. If that means Najee gets no carries, I don't care. Because it's just the offense. It's just everybody looks so confused. It's so puzzled. There's no communication. The personnel looks like shit. The only bright spot we've had is Pat Fryermuth. So, maybe we just force feed him all game and see where that takes us. So I don't have an answer to that question, Trent. I don't. It looks so bad. It just everything looks out of sort.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson sucks. So
See, I'm a little bit of a difference person here because I do think I have the answers to this. Fire Arthur Smith today and just let Russell Wilson call plays because it can't be any worse than what Arthur Smith is throwing out there because it's moonball or bust.
I don't think the play calling is the problem. I think the personnel and the quarterback is the problem, though. Like the play calling isn't all that bad. Like I understand where he's
great.
What?
I said the tosses that they keep running out there and Cordell Patterson. Woo.
Oh god.
Like you just have that's a Cordell Patterson. That's a personnel thing. Again, I understand that, but the sequence of the play calling, I don't think is a problem. I think it's a serious personnel issue. Dan Moore is terrible. Muth, as much as I love him, can't block. The receiving core is not good. Najee Harris is just not the right back for an Arthur Smith system. He really does need like a superstar. And then again, Russell Wilson, dude, he's a pumpkin. Lowry, I remember telling you this on the last time we were together, that this was going to happen with Russell Wilson. This shit is not sustainable. I think, to your point of firing Arthur Smith today, I think you bench Russell Wilson today.
I think if you go back and you say, okay, well, you know what Arthur Smith needs? He needs a superstar running back. Had it in Atlanta, sucked. Oh, he needs a superstar wide receiver. Had it in Atlanta, sucked. Needs a superstar tight end. Had it in Atlanta, and he sucked. He got fired because the offense and that team wasn't good. And here's
Desmond Ritter at quarterback. Desmond Ritter at quarterback. Desmond fucking Ritter at quarterback. Come on.
Who drafted him? Who drafted him and who started him? Who played him? Who let Matt Ryan go?
Who are you going to start? Who are you going to start over Desmond Ritter in Atlanta last year or the year prior?
I'd have to look at the people that they could assign, I mean.
And just so you know, the head coach doesn't draft.
Mayfield is out there. Oh, come on, man.
Only in Pittsburgh, bro. Only in Pittsburgh and Bill Belichick. That's it.
No.
Trent. If
you think the coach doesn't, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to draft any players. I'm not going to have any say-so in it. I'm not going to do anything. You guys do it all, and I'm just going to eat, cook the meal that you want me to prepare because you're buying all the groceries, Bill Parcells. No. Coach, coaches have a part in picking those players. Arthur Smith knew what he got. He could have gone out and said, listen, I need this type of guy to run the offense. And they're like, okay, well, how about Desmond Ritter? No, hell no, I can't run my offense. Okay, well, we're going to draft him anyways. No, that didn't happen. Arthur Smith is hamstrung a little bit because of the quarterbacks he has on the roster. I'm not going to argue every coach, OC, but they have to then make it work, right? So you have deep balls. You have Mike Williams, who they're not using to run deep down the field because they got Van Jefferson. Okay, great, wonderful. Whose guy was he? Arthur Smith's guy. That's right. And he gets out there. Steelers are moving the ball. They're running well. Najee gets out. Okay, let's put Cordell Patterson on the most important play of the game in there. And that is a personnel decision. But whose personnel? Who decides what offense players go out there?
Well, probably Tomlin.
No, it's the OC who's calling the play. He's sending in the package. Tomlin. So Tomlin's going to send people out there, and then Arthur Smith is going to call a package for that. So Tomlin is out there saying, "Let's run Cordell Patterson out there."
Lowry, you have to understand who the common denominator is, brother, because you had retard Canada, you had retard Fichtner, you have retard Smith now, and the common denominator is Tomlin. The offense has at all. Like it's Tomlin and the fact that we haven't had a quarterback.
Didn't I say that it's a philosophy issue that they got?
Whose philosophy do you think
I'm not arguing that.
Keep it close and win the fourth quarter.
That's what I'm just agreeing with you. I'm not saying that Tomlin is blameless in this. Tomlin hired these guys. Tomlin runs it. Tomlin's in charge of getting the players out there. But when it comes to, okay, well, we're calling this play, that's on the offensive coordinator who's calling the play to send out the players in that particular package. There's no way.
Personnel makes it tough.
But Patterson makes it worse. You just said we need to get Najee and Warren going, right? But yet we keep seeing Patterson out there, and this was a crucial third down. And Patterson walks out there? Come on. We've seen how that goes. What they need to do, if they're going to run Russell Wilson out there, they're going to have to take actual deep shots. Just throw the ball deep, not hold it, but throw the ball deep and use wide receivers, Austin, Pickens, Williams to go deep.
Pretty sure our first down of the game last week was a 36-yard catch to Mike Williams, but yes.
And then what did they do? Then they put him off and Brad Jefferson out there. And actually, I think that 36 was like right before the half. So I think that might have been that was a gorgeous play, but that's what they need to do because that's what Wilson is. He's going to rather do the deep ball or the check down. And if you're going to put Fields out there today, okay, then you got to run RPO. He's still not going to take advantage of that 5 to 10 yard field because Fields hasn't done that historically. He has the big arm too, and he's going to run it. You have to call plays for that quarterback. The fact is, like you watched one of the plays where I think it was Wilson stared down Pickens, and Pickens cuts the outside, and at that point he had Warren, I think, was free, and there might have been another tight end free. But by the time Wilson changed over to the right hand side of the field, all of it was covered, and he takes a sack. They're waiting too long to do it. If he rather needs to throw it right away, deep, or he needs to check off of it quicker.
Well, Russell Wilson has always had a problem running into sacks, man. I mean, that's a quarterback problem as well. And then my question for you here, Lowry, like, you watch the games, right?
Yeah.
So what exactly does Mike Williams, other than like size and probably contested catchability, what does he realistically do better than Van Jefferson? Because from what I see, and I watch the All-22 every single week after the game, I see Mike Williams and I say, okay, subpar run blocker. Van Jefferson's a very good run blocker.
Yep.
Actually. Mike Williams cannot run anymore, unfortunately. That dude has no wheels. It's unreal. He can't really separate. He really never has separated. It's really been a matter of like physical, just overall brute, as well as like, the length of being 6'5" and having long arms to be able to make contested catches. I just don't really know exactly what he can do better than Van Jefferson. I think his usage is fine in terms of like couple deep shots a game, one deep shot a game. He didn't do anything in New York for the same reason. He can't really run. He can't really separate. His route tree's very hindered. And again, it's a quarterback thing as well.
And if you put Van Jefferson in New York, it would look, if not just as bad as Williams looked in New York.
Right, because they're both wide receiver 4s. I would at least play the wide receiver 4 that could run block, the wide receiver 4 that can run a slant route.
But that was an issue that I've always had with Pickens, right? Like Pickens looked great when he was blocking his first couple of years, then all of a sudden stopped. So every time they run it, they pull him off the field. And they put Scotty Miller, who all of a sudden is cut, and Van Jefferson out there. I'll go, gee, wonder if the Steelers are going to run it. So right now, if you're going to use play action pass, if you're going to do it, you need to go deep. So if you're not you got Van Jefferson out there, and he's not, I don't think I remember seeing him catch a deep pass. At least Mike Williams has 3 deep passes on the year that he's caught. Okay, so you ask me, what does he do? He does the same thing as George Pickens. He's not getting separation. He's just catching contested balls. So you throw it with them you put him out there to try to get those safeties and corners to take those couple yards back to protect against that deep shot that might come. And then you can run it up the middle. You have Muth coming into the middle of the field, 15 yards deep. But those people are going to play back just because of who those wide receivers are. There is not a defense that's out there going like, oh my God, how do we cover Van Jefferson? They're not.
I feel like they're not doing that with Williams either, though.
They're still backing up because, like you said, he has no route tree.
It's such a serious personnel thing, man.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I agree 100% that it's a personnel thing. I blame it on the coach. I blame it on the OC. I blame it on the GM. None of those people are above who I call out for how this offense looks right now. But I will go back to the fact that right now, with who they got back there, with Russell Wilson, you got to play to Russell Wilson, which is deep ball, check down. And if you're not going to put Calvin Austin out there to run past guys who actually has speed, who actually did well when George Pickens was out. So let's figure that out. Why all of a sudden Pickens comes back and Austin goes to the bench? If you're not running those guys out there, those defensive backs, okay, we're playing Pickens deep. Everybody else is playing short. You're not getting anything. You're stacking the box just because you got wide receivers that block in there. And if you put Fields in there, then you got to take advantage of his legs. You can't just sit back and expect him to do the Russell Wilson offense.
I'll say this. I talked a lot about Russell Wilson, and I kept trying to tell everybody to pump the brakes on him because, I mean, he was playing terrible defenses. He was playing defenses missing starters, especially, the Jets and the Giants are two that come to mind that they were missing like half of their secondary each. And I said early in the offseason. He is a game manager. He's a very high level game manager. He's not a guy you put the ball in his hands and say, go win a game. So with our running game not getting going, I mean, that's been a huge problem with the offense is if you cannot run the ball and take some of the pressure off Russ, I feel like he's pressing too much and he's trying to make these big plays, but like it's just turning into sacks. I mean, that's what it's doing. And I think that's also why he's, getting some of these turnovers that he's creating. The run against Baltimore in Baltimore, I don't fault him for that play. I would have liked to see him slide, but like I can understand, like he feels all the pressure of the offense on his shoulders right now.
I fault him for that play.
I mean, yeah, I like I said, he fumbled ultimately, right? But I mean, I understand him trying to get to the end zone instead of sliding because he knew we needed to get in there, and it's been few and far between on some of these drives. I actually thought he moved the ball a little bit better against Baltimore than what we've seen against Kansas City or even Cincinnati.
I thought
it's just been. I just don't think they have to get something out of the run game, or it's just going to be really, really hard moving forward.
I think that Wilson in that second half, specifically, once again, going back to my philosophy issues with the team, you go to that fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, oh look, we're moving the ball. Even on that drive, he hit people. Now we can argue. We wouldn't argue. We'd all agree his biggest mistake was not getting out of bounds or throwing the ball out on that one down. But he was still hitting people. I mean, he was moving the ball. He wasn't taking 50, 70-yard shots. But why isn't that the offense that we're seeing through 3 other quarters? Well, it's a philosophy issue. They don't want to take those chances early in the game. And I think that hamstrings it. I don't think Wilson was ever going to be the long-term answer. I've said it since day one that I thought he was this is his year because they brought him in to win one playoff game at least, to give him the best chance. Then they were able to get Fields because Pickett decided to be Pickett. And it's like, okay, well, Fields can be next year. He still has work that he needs to improve on. But right now, if you're not going to change the offense to be more attacking, then it doesn't matter who's back there.
Let me say this. I really honestly, I believe he's been moving the ball late in halves and in the end of game scenarios because we're losing and teams are playing prevent. That's when he's moving the football. They're playing off. They're playing cover 3 a lot. And he's just sitting underneath stuff that's open because the teams don't care if we run our clock out on ourselves. I mean, that's kind of when we're moving the football. I think it's a lot to do with not Russell starting to actually find guys open. I think teams are just like, okay, if you want to throw this little dump pass down short and, get a first down, that's fine. But
if you look at the tape, and we've talked about it with Austin running across the middle, there's guys that are open across the middle earlier in the game.
He doesn't throw the ball over the middle.
That's
right.
But that's kind of what I'm saying, though, is that's not but you look at it, he didn't throw it. He's not throwing it over the middle. Fields didn't throw it over the middle. Pickett didn't throw it over the middle. Mitch didn't throw it over the middle. Mason didn't throw it over the middle. I mean, it goes back for a while about not taking it until all of a sudden these fourth quarters happen. Everybody's like, well, defenses play back. Well, yeah, but those routes are open all game. They're just not taking them for some reason until they absolutely positively need to, because turnovers happen more in the middle of the field. And that's where the most interceptions, because there's most crowded. And that's why I'm saying that it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If they're not going to say, hey, let's utilize this middle of the field, we're in for another long day, unless, like you said, Trent, the running game gets going.
But I feel like with Russ, it's more of just not being able to see the middle of the field. If we're being completely honest, like
it could be.
So let me ask you guys this: do you think we're going to see some Justin Fields in this game?
It's burn the boats time.
That's what he said.
Hey, no, that's deadass. That is one of my favorite quotes of all time. We had a T-shirt like when I played football in high school that said "Burn the boats," dude. That's one of my favorite quotes ever, dude. I love Artie for that, and yeah, dude, I hope we do see Justin. That Russ ACL injury is gonna hit like a truck in that first half. I'm telling you. Give me Justin.
And the last time we saw Justin, he ran for 6 yards and slid and hurt his abdomen, and it was out for 3 weeks.
Hey, we got the 15 yards on the penalty, though.
No, he wasn't. It was the Philly game. He didn't get hit.
Yeah, the Philly game, we got the 15-yard penalty.
It wasn't on the penalty, though. He only ran. It was the one game he ran one. He came out and ran one play
Yes,
And then
that Philly
it
game,
wasn't-
it was like a late hit on the slide.
I could have
And we
sworn
got 15 yards.
that was a
Yes,
different play that he got hurt on. But
that
okay,
was Philly.
okay.
I mean, honestly, I hope we do see Justin Fields in this game, even if it's for packages. I think he just really,
man. He should be out there. At some point, he needs to be out there in packages. I don't think you.
All right, Najee game, I like that.
Yep, I like it too. He added Warren to it too.
I'm fine with those two as long as we don't see Smith's boy out there running it. I'm good.
I don't want to. Listen. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to see Cordell Patterson on the field. I don't even care if it's kick returns. He's the worst kick returner in the NFL this year. He was brought here to be a kick returner, and then he's getting a toss play, and he looks every second of his age when he's out there right now.
Dude, do you guys follow Tony Serino?
No.
Oh, dude, he's so funny. Every time Cordell Patterson touches the ball, he's like, "All right, that's the court mandated Cordell Patterson touch for the drive."
I agree with this too.
It really is. Like I got nothing for it.
He's got to have some shit on already, man. It's like the same thing that Dan Moore has on Tomlin.
Oh, dude,
it's something.
I don't agree with the Dan Moore on Tomlin thing just because they've literally tried to replace him and they just haven't. Like for whatever reason, they haven't, and that's what kills me.
The absolute refusal to put Broderick on the left side is just, dude, you traded up a pick for him, man. Put him on the fucking left side, dude. Like it hits a point, right?
I think that was the plan until like he was like, okay, well, preseason hasn't looked all right. Well, let's see. Then Troy goes down. It's like, okay, well, we're going to put you right back out there. Oh, Troy's healthy. Oh, Troy got out. Now he's out for the season. Now we're back to Broderick Jones on the right. It's like, oh, and I have less of an issue. Dan Moore had a great first half, but as the defenses have gotten better, Moore's kind of reverted to it. But some of that I also think is like you pointed out with Freiermuth, and I'll even say with Washington, they haven't exactly shown the best of blocking to help.
No, Washington's made a huge jump. I can't get with that one, man. I'm a Washington guy. I think he's made a huge jump.
I'm not saying he didn't make a jump. I'm just saying that he hasn't. It's not like if Moore is struggling, Washington is going to pick him up, right? Washington still needs Moore to be that A-level guy. So when Moore's having these C games against the better defensive players, it's like, okay, somebody, do something, help Moore out. I agree 100%. Like Moore's going to get paid. Moore's not going to be back there, but I still think we're going to end up in the same, well, who's our tackles next year? Because I don't trust any of the two we got right now, or the two that are going to be there next year.
Yeah, let's follow along with where he's going with this thing. So, number 77, got to give Russ some time. Let's get into some keys of this game. I think number one, we could start off by saying with Zay Flowers out, the two tight ends. Colin mentioned this early on. Yeah. Andrews and Likely are going to be a big part of this offense, and I think that's going to be step one. Is in the pass game, you have to start to shut those two down. So we've touched on this a little bit. What would you guys do? Would you want to see some more zone because of Flowers not being there? Do you want to see more man-to-man? Like, how do you?
Well, zone by default, because you have like the RPOs and the shit that the Ravens run. So zone by default, I would say you're probably looking to bracket Mark Andrews and then probably put one of your athletes on Likely. So I talked about it earlier, so it's pretty much your guys' question at this point.
I think to me, and this is the reason why I'm on this side of the camera and not on the field, because this is where I would be like, okay, we're burning down the village, right? I am covering man on everybody, right? I am forcing man on the tight ends, on the wide receivers, and I got Peyton Wilson, who your only job out here is going to follow Lamar.
So you have him as a spy?
Yeah, I'm like, everybody else, Patrick Queen, you better hit today because you're going to hit Derrick Henry. And if you're not, I will be more than happy to pull you out and throw Roberts in there. I'd take Holcomb on a busted leg if you're not going to make a hit on Derrick Henry today. But, forced that. I don't see the Steelers doing it because it's a stupid idea because you're not going zero cut. You're not zero deep over the top because Lamar's just going to throw it deep if he has a chance, right? But, man, I just want to see them bludgeon the receiving core at the line of scrimmage. Throw off Lamar's time with those guys. And without Flowers out there, that's my best way of doing it. Be like, I'm playing everybody heads up. I'm putting TJ Watt over Mark Andrews, wherever he ends up, put him over the top of him, just tell him to hit him first. If you're not going to get to the quarterback, then do something.
Well, they used Andrews to chip TJ quite a bit in that last game. I mean, he both games, honestly. He was doing a lot of chipping, and I'll say this: I would swap the spy out. I thought Patrick Queen played spy against Lamar about as well as anybody you're going to see out there. He played extremely well in that spy position, especially that first game against Baltimore. He was flying sideline to sideline, and I thought that he was a big reason why Lamar didn't really run a lot in that game.
I think because he's mentally sound.
Queen's a wonderful spy backer.
He had I thought he did a fantastic job there when he was blitzing, when they used him to blitz. I thought that was a great job there. I'm honest. I get that the man-to-man opens up some run game stuff. I just think you can get Lamar to turn the ball over if you man up. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, because I think we are going to have to create turnovers in this game to get a win. I would take a shot, and I've run a little bit more man coverage in this game than I would zone. You're going to mix both, obviously. But I think going man and putting Deshaun Elliott on Mark Andrews and letting Peyton Wilson run with Likely, I think that's the way to go. And I think that you really got to put the ball in Lamar's hands in this one. And that's crazy to say because the dude might win the MVP, but like against our defense, for whatever reason, he just seems to struggle. So
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, this comment here is exactly what we've done to Lamar, and that's the reason he's not been able to do what he does against every other team. I mean, he can run around against everybody forever and create, 7 seconds worth of time to throw a ball downfield. But against us, I mean, they do contain him very well. So
it's the reason why you pay Highsmith, because him and Watt keep him in there versus a lot of others.
Yeah. So this is a interesting one because I don't think they're going to play Beanie Bishop a lot, which kills me because I think he's better than Sutton. But I would love to see Beanie Bishop on the field making plays, to be perfectly honest with you, because, I mean, he played 6 snaps last game and gets a pick. Sutton's out there all damn game watching dudes run around all over the place.
And he can't blitz worth a darn. I don't know who thinks that's every week is a good idea to keep blitzing Sutton. Rather, Sutton does it on his own or Austin sends him, but I'm like, dude never manages to get past whoever's blocking him.
Has he made it past the tackle yet on a blitz? Like, has he even made it past the tackle to even get close to sniffing the quarterback? Because I don't think he has.
Doesn't have a single hurry or pressure on the year via PFF, so do with that as you will.
So obviously a big piece of this too is also going to be stopping Derrick Henry. We saw him run wild in that first game. Would you guys change anything to try to slow him down in this one?
Well, that's the dilemma, right? If you put Patrick Wilson out there, you're kind of covering more for Lamar and the tight ends. If you put Roberts out there, you're kind of covering more for Henry and Lamar running the ball. So what do you need out there? I honestly have no idea, except that you can't let him have those inside runs. You have to force him to run east and west before he goes north and south.
Yeah. Colin, what about you? Did you do anything different this game than what we did last game?
See, the question itself is so flawed, right? You didn't stop Adrian Peterson, right? You didn't stop Barry Sanders. You didn't stop Derrick Henry. You don't stop Saquon. You don't stop CMC. It's more of a containment issue. So I would say in terms of Derrick Henry, like if you watch kind of how he played at the last game, what they would do is they would run a lot of like exotic motions and misdirection. And the communication on the second level was really terrible. It was kind of like guys weren't matching each other and they were trying to like match strong with strong and week on week with like the backers in the backfield. It was the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen Terrell Austin do, which is, typical. But yeah, I would just say, the communication aspect of the exotic motions, because they're definitely going to run that again, like 1,000%, because it worked like a charm. I would say it's never going to be stopping. You don't stop Jamar Chase, you contain. So just do everything you can to contain it, which I don't know the answer to. And
I agree with the comment about Henry being slow to get off, on a bunch of different levels, right? Like most of his big games come when you get to that end of third quarter range when he's been running all game. But on top of that, even when he gets the ball handoff, like Ryan Clark said a long time ago, if you hit Henry right off the bat, he will go down. But if you let him past your linemen and your linebackers, he's going to kill everybody else. You need to make sure that your linemen and your linebackers are gap sound today.
Yeah,
and that's something the Steelers always struggle with.
Yes. I actually think I would probably start with Roberts getting a good bit of the first and second down work, with Peyton Wilson being more of the third down guy on this one. I don't think I'd mess with it too much, because I think if you can slow Henry down, and I agree with you, Colin, you're not going to stop this guy, but like I mentioned earlier, I think 70 yards is the benchmark. If you keep him to 70 yards or less, I think that you feel pretty good about your chances of holding this offense down. But if he gets over that 70-yard mark, that's when he really starts churning and just wearing down your defense. So I think that's going to be a big thing. I'm going to skip one of these and just kind of get to, like, what are your three keys offensively? Colin, I'll start with you.
Do I have to have three?
No, whatever you got.
All right.
Whatever you got.
Yeah, I actually have two. Get Calvin Austin going, get Pat Freiermuth going.
I like it.
That's it. Fuck Pickens, fuck Najee, fuck Warren. Get those two going. Calvin Austin, I love him. I know that's Trent's absolute guy. So, I'll match my agenda and add one of your guys to it. I got Muth. You could take Calvin. So
I love it.
I think they're going to do everything they can to keep Muth in line, meaning Ravens are going to do everything they can to force Muth not to be a receiver in the sets. And if they are, they're going to focus on him because he really has been. And I think I threw it out there, like, your number one receiving receiver, the one that catches all the passes this year, had 62, and that was Muth. That's who they're going to focus more of the attention to, and they're going to let Pickens kind of self-destruct and be singled up with, like, Humphrey or whoever and see what happens. So I'm 100% in the whole got to get Calvin Austin going. I think that kind of fall into my third, key, because I think you need to get those guys like him going. You can't just rely on Pickens to save your butt today. So in my keys of the game, assuming that Arthur Smith isn't going to, change and all of a sudden do a different quarterback out there, hit the middle of the field sooner, use their fourth quarter offense in the first half, bring back, Warren and Harris need to run, and they need to run up the field, not left and right to start out, right? They have to go up the field. And the biggest thing is, if you're not going to protect the quarterback, then switch to Fields and let him run. I mean, if you're not going to give the quarterback time, then might as well put somebody out there who's going to just run 50 yards every time or 20 yards every time and just be like, you know what, screw throwing the ball. We're just going to let him run the ball. That's it.
I think
protect the quarterback or get a quarterback who's going to run.
I actually think this is a really tough matchup for Pat Freiermuth. I know they've been playing Kyle Hamilton deep, but if I was Baltimore, I would lock Kyle Hamilton up on Pat Freiermuth and he's so athletic and so big as a safety that I think he can take Muth out of this game. It's a tough matchup. I mean,
even our Darius Washington, their other safety, 29, he's been so huge for them this year. Kind of like the Deshaun Elliott role, putting Kyle Hamilton back in center field-esque.
Yeah.
I think that our Darius Washington is going to be right all over him. I think 29 or 28, one of the two. But I would definitely look for that as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see Marlon Humphrey on Freiermuth at points today.
It'd be interesting.
He doesn't have to cover Van Jefferson.
He doesn't move into the slot very often that I can recall. But
you're not because you're not going to put Brandon Stevens on Pickens at that. You're not going to put that.
I think the biggest piece of this, I think you need the good side of George Pickens today, and I think you need to get him going early in this game. I think we need to break the trend of run first on first down every damn drive. 12 out of 15 first down plays in this last game were runs. That has to change. You cannot be that predictable. Everybody wants to talk about the run game not being efficient. Well, it's because everybody knows you're running the ball on first down. Like, the whole world knows that you're not going to throw it. So they're just going to come down crashing downhill. So I think you need to get out of that trend, throw the ball on first down a little bit more to mix some things up in this one. And I do think the run game needs to be more efficient if you're going to win. And I'm going to put his comment up here because that's how you do this right here. If you have an efficient run game, that's how you quiet the crowd because you move the sticks. And if you're not going to move the sticks with the run game and you're not going to mix some passes in on first down, then I'm really worried about this offense, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yep. I want to see Calvin Austin on like a first down, just do a go route, right? I don't care if it's incomplete, just throw it 50 yards beyond where Austin is and just put the threat and that idea in the back of their head on first down.
Well, remember we ran a deep post last time to Van Jefferson first play.
Yeah,
but that Van is kind of like running like I do, so running a deep post to him is kind of more like just how do you do, guys?
Hey, bro, Van's Loki got some speed, man. I'm pretty sure he's like a 4.38 guy coming out.
He was in the combine, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's like 4.38.
Yeah. What about defensively?
Blitz. That's it. Blitz.
Stop run on the way to the quarterback.
Oh yeah, bracket Andrews too, but that's it.
My first one is stop the run on the way to the quarterback. Don't stop the quarterback on the way to the run. Right? Cover. Play with your head on a swivel, because I don't want to see DBs running backwards and letting Lamar run 40 yards down the field. Oh, and my third thing, and this isn't meant to be a dirty thing, but if Lamar does run the ball,
take his knees.
Hit him. No, I wouldn't say take his knees, but I'd hit him. There's so many times where he kind of like runs, and he took a couple, there was a couple shots where he could have actually been hit really hard last time, and they kind of tackled him. I'm like, I want to see if he's not going to slide, if he's going to, even if he's about to head out of bounds, push him out of bounds and leave him. If he doesn't get hit, it's going to be, oh, cool. I'm not going to get hit hard on those 5-10 yard runs. I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I think for me, it's stop Derrick Henry first and foremost. I'm going to keep saying it. It's that 70-yard mark. He's got to stay under 70 yards if you're going to win this game. I think creating pressure that leads to turnovers. I think that's going to be step 2 if we're going to pull this thing out. And step 3 for me is just honestly, like Colin mentioned earlier, is the communication. They're going to run a ton of these motion plays because we've not picked up the motions and communicated well and made sure we have our assignments. So that has got to be fixed in this one. You're in the playoffs now. You don't have time to mess around with communication issues and just stupid like week 1 stuff. So that'd be for me. That's what I got. How about some scores? So who's going to be your winner? Who's your scores? I think Colin went first a couple times in a row, so I'm going to throw it to you first, Lowry.
All right. So
because I'm always right on mine.
Save the best for last time.
I'm going to go with the crazy like I did a while ago. I think it's going to be like a 32-28 Ravens game.
Wow.
It's going to suck. I'd rather see it verse. But if I'm putting money on it, I'm going to put money on the Ravens that way. And I go over because this game just screams like 17-13. It just screams it. So it's got to go the opposite way.
I'm going to let you go, Trenton.
All right. I really honestly, I don't feel good about this game at all. I just don't. The way our offense has been playing, I don't feel good about it. I do think the game's going to be closer. My initial reaction after watching the Cincinnati game was we're about to get beat by 30 by Baltimore. But I think it's going to be a little closer than that. I do think the defense holds up a little better than what we've seen in recent weeks. So I'm going to go probably 23-20 Baltimore. Colin?
26-13 Ravens.
I'm not predicting a safety this time like the last time, although it was close. There's a couple moments where there was the safety. I was like, oh.
Oh, man. I hope we find a way to pull this thing out, but the offense has got to get better. So unless they really throw the whole kitchen sink and everything at Baltimore, which I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to let happen, I don't see it happening. I'd love to see a ton of Justin Fields in this game, if I'm being honest with you. If we can't pass protect and we're going to try to establish the run all game long, like I have a feeling he's probably going to try to do, I'd rather just put Justin in and let him run.
I think you can't wait Like if I'm at the end of the first quarter and we've gone 3 and outs, and they're up 10-0, 13-0.
Hi, Russ.
Yeah, I'd pull them at that point. But I think you have to have Fields out there on any packages you have. There's no, like they said, like Tomlin said, like, what was it, like 7 or 8 years ago when they were like, well, why didn't you go for a 2-point conversion? He's like, well, I'm keeping that for the playoffs or whatever he said. It's like, this is it, man. All your plays, all your personnel thinking, this is the game. They're not going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to be able to go to Buffalo or to Kansas City and upset them if they upset Baltimore. So this is the game. I'm leaving it all on the field. Now, fake punt. If this is the game where I would be like, surprise onside to start the game. But we can't do that anymore.
No. Oh, he's pretty close to being in line. He's kind of right in the middle of each of us.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So
a lot of diversity from us, boys. A lot of diversity from us.
Yes. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We'll have to keep track of this one, see who ends up on the right side of this thing. Hopefully we're all wrong and the Steelers pull out a win. And
dude, could you imagine we just wake up tomorrow and it's like fucking like 32-10 Steelers? It's like, oh, okay.
If that's the case by halftime, I'm going to actually be happy and relaxed.
Yes.
No, you won't.
Oh, yeah, I would. I'd be like 32-10. I'm like, oh, thank God. But no way. At halftime, it would still be like 10-10.
We'll be up 20-0. I'm like, man, how are we going to blow this?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah, for sure.
We're going to run the ball like 20 straight carry. I guarantee 20 straight times we're running the ball.
Yeah.
We're not even – Russ will never throw a pass again.
Obvious Russell Wilson strip sack coming.
I can't remember who was coaching the Browns at the time, but I think it was the playoff game. They were up, and they had that thing locked down, and they ran it every play. And the Steelers just kept coming back, and by the end of the game, they're like, maybe I should have thrown it in the second half of the game. I think that was the Tommy Maddox game where he was in the playoffs. But that was like so fun. It's like, oh my God, are you seriously just not going to throw the ball at all? And nope, they didn't. And they paid the price.
Yep. I mean, I agree with him. He said we have a puncher's chance. I do agree with that. I mean, if we can get the ball moving on offense early, and I really think it's going to come down to the defense getting turnovers. If the defense puts the offense in really good spots in the field, then I do think that we have a chance to steal something here. And didn't Baltimore collapse against somebody last year in the playoff, and somebody they obviously should have beat? Who did they play last year?
Last year would be KC.
Yeah, they got the 1 seed and beat Houston, and then they
Okay.
No, they got 1 seed. Houston beat Kansas City or Cleveland last year.
Yeah,
because that was my favorite moment of the year, because it was like everybody was touting up Flacco, and I was like, he sucks still. And by the way, that's my comp for the last 4 weeks is Russell Wilson is what Joe Flacco is right now. He's going to win you a couple games. He's going to lose you a couple games. He's going to make some games look really good, and some games he's going to be like, what? But that's where I think Russell Wilson is in his career. Like after this season, he's the guy that you hire to save your team if you're broke at quarterback, but he's not the guy that I'm going to want out there for 17 straight weeks. Right. Which also would lead me to my next question, which is, if the Steelers do lose, what's the thing that they need to do? What's the first thing you do? Do you decide, it's time to call it quits and rebuild, or do you keep it running and try just to find a quarterback that's going to make it happen?
I think right now you're in a position where there are no quarterbacks. This year is not going to be the year where you get a quarterback, and I talked about that at the beginning of the year. Colin and I did an episode looking at the college quarterbacks before the season started, and we looked at some of the free agent guys that were out there, and I mean it's a pretty bare cover, honestly. Like I've said for a long time, I really think they should pay Justin, not a lot, but bring him back and see what you have with him, because either you're going to win some games or he's going to be that bad that you get into the discussion where you can go get a guy in the next year's draft. We're just not going to draft high enough this year to do anything about it. And the back half of the first round, these dudes are terrible.
We're never going to draft high enough to get guys that people think we're going to get. I mean, it takes like a monumental accidental collapse like they did with Ben, and even then,
Rodgers.
yeah, you need to hope that a guy like Rodgers slides in the draft.
I mean, that's how the Packers have done it. Aaron Rodgers.
Or are you talking about
so
signing
did Jordan Love? Jordan Love
Rodgers?
fell all the way down to the late. Wasn't he in the mid 20s, 24, 20?
No, I think he was high 20s.
20.
Yeah.
Were they on the back half of that draft or back part of that draft?
Yeah, 24th they draft Jordan Love, 24th overall.
24th. Okay, so I was thinking it was about 24. So yeah, I mean that's.
And Colin,
I don't know if that guy's in this draft though. That's the thing. I don't think that guy's in this draft.
When you brought Rodgers up, please tell me you were saying that as far as how he fell in the draft and not.
Yeah,
okay,
how he fell.
If you said they should sign him, I'm literally taking any credit that you ever say about football players away.
No, I was talking about how he fell so hard.
Yeah, he did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
For me personally, not necessarily for him. I just like the green room watching him. It was like the only entertainment in the draft. It was like every time they'd cut to him, it was just like you could see him getting more and more upset as it kept going. It was comedy to me. I felt bad for him, but it was kind of like, oh, dude, you guys keep showing this poor guy. And he's like,
all right, guys. I didn't have anything else. Do you have anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this thing up?
All set.
Nope. Hopefully we get to keep our lockers for one more week.
Heck yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll be talking during the game and everything. So I'm gonna cut this thing off here, and hopefully we pull out a victory. Thanks for joining again, as always, guys. This is a great way to end it right here.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Right. Have a good one.
Thanks. Have a good one.